The late afternoon sun catches the crystal flute in my hand, throwing rainbows onto the manicured lawn. It's warm. Too warm for the tailored suit I'm wearing, but blending in requires certain sacrifices. From my position near the ancient oak tree at the edge of the vineyard, I have a perfect view of the ceremony arch, heavy with white roses and expectation. It's the exact spot where Mia and I were supposed to get married. 5 years ago, before I walked away. And just like 5 years ago, the bride is late. I see her now, pacing near the entrance to the main house, phone pressed to her ear, gesturing emphatically. Mia. Brilliant, beautiful, utterly consumed Mia. Even on her wedding day, her second attempt at a wedding day, a work call takes precedence. Some things, it seems, never change. Her new fiancé, a perfectly acceptable finance guy named Mark, shifts his weight at the altar, trying to look patient. He has no idea. He thinks this is a one-off, an unavoidable emergency. I know better. This is the pattern. A faint smile touches my lips. Unbidden. It's not malicious. Not exactly. It's validation. Confirmation that walking away, rewriting my own story, was the only choice. 5 years ago. The memory hits with the force of a physical blow, sharp and distinct. Waking up in my old apartment, the one Mia hated, sunlight streaming through the dusty blinds. My head throbbed, not from alcohol, but from the impossible weight of knowing. Knowing everything that was about to happen. The arguments, the broken promises, the slow erosion of my self-worth, culminating in that final humiliation. Mia, my fiancée, choosing a conference call over our wedding ceremony. I'd woken up that morning 5 years ago, not just hungover from a pity party, but back. Back with 5 years of future knowledge crammed into my skull, a second chance, a do-over I hadn't asked for but desperately needed. My focus snaps back to the present as a figure detaches from the chattering guests and heads my way. Elise, Mia's older sister. Her smile is wide, blindingly white, but it doesn't reach her eyes. It never did, not when directed at me. Daniel, I almost didn't recognize you. Her voice is smooth, practiced, the kind of warmth that feels like a carefully constructed facade. It's surprising to see you here. Surprising you didn't have security remove me, I think, but I keep my expression neutral. Elise, you look well. She smooths down the silk of her bridesmaid dress, a hideous shade of blush that does nothing for her. Mia will be thrilled you came, so forgiving of you. The barb is subtle, wrapped in sweetness. She was always the gatekeeper, the one whispering doubts in Mia's ear, orchestrating little social embarrassments to remind me I didn't belong in their world. Like that engagement party in the first timeline, where she'd accidentally spilled red wine on my only decent suit right before the toasts. I offer a non-committal shrug. Just paying respects. The vineyard looks exactly the same. Same rolling hills, same rows of meticulously tended grapevines, same ridiculously opulent tasting room. The air smells of fertile earth, expensive perfume, and simmering tension. My tension, mostly. Though it's different now. Back then, it was the anxiety of an imposter, desperately trying to measure up. Now, it's the quiet hum of satisfaction. Watching the same play unfold, but this time I'm not the tragic character left waiting stage right. I'm just an observer who knows how it ends. And knowing I chose a different ending for myself, that feels better than any revenge. Mia. Even now, watching her finally hurry towards the altar, smoothing her impossibly expensive dress, a part of me feels that old pull. She wasn't intentionally cruel, just blinkered. Her world revolved around billable hours, partnership tracks, and the relentless pursuit of success defined by her father's terms. She's a force of nature in the courtroom, sharp, relentless. That same focus, turned onto our relationship, meant analyzing flaws, scheduling intimacy like a deposition, and always prioritizing the next big case. In the first timeline, she'd promised, hand on heart, that after the merger, after the Henderson trial, after making partner, then she'd have time. Then we could be us. It was a horizon that never got closer. And pulling the strings, subtly at first, then with growing confidence, was Elise. 5 years older, married to old money, Elise saw herself as Mia's protector. Protector from what? From me, apparently. The scholarship kid who didn't summer in the Hamptons, who didn't understand the nuances of navigating their rarefied social strata. Every compliment she paid me felt like it had quotation marks around it. Daniel, you're so earnest. It's wonderful how Mia helps you network. She'd sow seeds of doubt. Was I ambitious enough for Mia? Could I really keep up? Was I holding her back? All delivered with a concerned tilt of her head and a sisterly squeeze of Mia's arm. Then there was James, my best friend, or so I thought. We met in college, bonded over cheap beer and dreams of escaping our boring hometowns. He was my confidant, the one I vented to about Mia's crazy hours, about feeling like an afterthought. And he'd listened, nodding sympathetically. "She's under a lot of pressure, man," he'd say. "Just hang in there. She needs your support." What I didn't know, what I only pieced together later in that first failed life, was that James was playing both sides. He was telling Mia I was getting needy, complaining too much, adding to her stress. He saw an opportunity cozying up to Mia's influential family, angling for introductions, maybe even a job at her father's firm. He wasn't supporting me. He was subtly positioning himself to benefit from my eventual exit. The memory of his fake sympathy still makes my stomach clench. And looming over it all was Arthur Kensington, Mia's father. Senior partner Kensington. He ran the firm, and by extension, Mia's life, with an iron fist clad in bespoke tailoring. He never overtly disapproved of me. Worse, he was dismissive, polite, but with an undercurrent of "you'll do until someone better comes along." He saw me as a distraction, a potential impediment to the partnership he'd mapped out for Mia since she aced her LSATs. Every conversation felt like a performance review I was failing. He'd ask about my job, a perfectly respectable tech startup in the first timeline, with a patronizing air, comparing my modest successes to Mia's courtroom triumphs. He reinforced Mia's belief that her career was paramount, the family legacy. Our relationship was secondary. Surrounding them was the circle. That amorphous group of privileged, perpetually networking friends Mia had grown up with. They tolerated me with the detached curiosity one might show a new exhibit at the zoo. Lunches where the conversation revolved around European ski trips and trust fund fluctuations. Golf games I couldn't afford and didn't know how to play. Parties where I stood nursing a drink, feeling the invisible walls of class and connection boxing me out. I tried. I bought the right clothes, learned to feign interest in polo, laughed at jokes I didn't find funny. But I was always Mia's +1, the outsider they accommodated but never truly accepted. The power imbalance was stark, suffocating. I was the one who had to adapt, to be flexible, to be grateful for being allowed into their orbit. My time, my preferences, my needs, they were always negotiable. Mia's were non-negotiable facts, dictated by court schedules and client demands. That first timeline, the wedding day humiliation is still vivid, standing at that very altar, sweating in my rented tux, guests murmuring, Elise shooting pitying glances my way. An hour passed, then 90 minutes. Finally, her father appeared, grim-faced. "Mia's been detained. A crisis with the Moreau account. Career-defining. She sends her deepest apologies." deepest apologies. Not even the courage to tell me herself. I'd just nodded, numb, walked away from the altar, from the vineyard, from that life. The drive back to the city was a blur of shame and impotent rage. Now, watching Mark check his watch for the 10th time, I feel a strange mix of pity and distance. He's me 5 years ago, oblivious, invested, about to learn the hard way where he ranks. But this time I'm not waiting with him. I already know the script, and I've spent the last 5 years writing my own. It started subtly this second time around. 6 months after I woke up back in my old life, Mia and I were deep into planning the wedding we'd never had. The venue was booked. This vineyard, again, because Mia insisted it was perfect for photos and conveniently located for her city colleagues. Everything felt eerily familiar, a rerun I was forced to watch. But this time, I held the remote. The trigger came during a supposed pre-wedding planning dinner. We were meant to discuss catering, finalize the guest list additions her parents insisted on. An hour before we were due to leave, my phone buzzed, a text from Mia. "Mia, so sorry, babe, crisis at work. Have to pull an all-nighter. Rain check on dinner, you understand?" X. You understand? The casual assumption that my time, our plans, were infinitely flexible. In the first timeline, I would have sighed, texted back, "No problem, kill it," and spent the evening feeling vaguely resentful while eating takeout alone. This time I typed back, "Daniel, of course, handle your business. Talk tomorrow." Apparent acceptance. Supportive fiancé mode activated. But as soon as I hit send, I was dialing another number. Richard Sterling. A notoriously aggressive, highly successful partner at Thornton and Gage, the biggest rival to Mia's firm, Kensington and Associates. I knew, from my future knowledge, that Sterling was circling a major tech client, Innovate Solutions, that Mia's firm was desperate to land. And I knew the specific vulnerability in Kensington's pitch, an over-reliance on a junior associate Mia secretly distrusted, but felt obligated to use due to office politics. "Richard, Daniel Thorne here," I said, keeping my voice level, professional. We'd met briefly at an industry event weeks earlier, a meeting I'd strategically engineered this time around. "Following up on our chat, I might have some insight regarding the Innovate pitch your firm is competing for. Specifically, potential weaknesses in the Kensington approach." I didn't give him everything. Just enough. A nudge in the right direction, a hint about where to apply pressure, information gleaned from Mia's late-night venting sessions in our previous life. Information she'd shared, assuming my unwavering loyalty. 2 weeks later, the news broke. Thornton and Gage had landed Innovate Solutions. It was a significant blow to Kensington and Associates, and particularly to Mia, who had personally overseen the final stages of their failed pitch. Whispers about her leadership, her judgment, started circulating. Her anticipated promotion to junior partner put on indefinite hold. The fallout at home was predictable. Mia was stressed, irritable, working even longer hours to compensate. She blamed bad luck, incompetent colleagues, Sterling's underhanded tactics. She never once suspected my calm, supportive presence was anything but genuine. Then came the scene I remembered, yet dreaded. Mia, late one night, finding me working on my own burgeoning project, a small software idea I was nursing in my spare time. Tears welled in her eyes. "Daniel, I'm so sorry," she whispered, burying her head in my shoulder. "I've been so consumed, so stressed. Losing Innovate, Dad was furious. I feel like I'm messing everything up. Us. Work. Everything." She pulled back, her expression earnest, pleading. "I promise, once this blows over, I'll make more time. We'll go on that trip we talked about, just you and me. Please say you're not mad." It was a convincing performance, maybe even genuine in that moment. In the first timeline, I would have melted, reassured her. believed the promise because I desperately wanted to. This time, I held her gaze. I summoned the memory of standing alone at the altar. I thought about the 1,000 tiny cuts, the rescheduled dates, the conversations cut short by her ringing phone. I smiled gently. "Hey, it's okay. We're a team, right? We'll get through it." I hugged her, feeling the tension ease out of her shoulders. False reconciliation achieved. But later that night, long after she'd fallen asleep, exhausted, I opened the new journal I'd started keeping. Under the date, I meticulously recorded Innovate Fallout Dinner, canceled, Promise #1, post-crisis trip. The first loop was complete, the foundation laid. She thought we were rebuilding. I knew I was documenting the demolition. The wedding planning machine rumbled on, fueled by Mia's fleeting bursts of enthusiasm between depositions and client emergencies. The next major friction point arrived disguised as choosing a secondary venue. A place for the rehearsal dinner. I'd suggested a charming restaurant downtown, near my small but growing office, a place with significance for us in the early days. Mia waved a dismissive hand, scrolling through venues on her tablet during a rare shared breakfast. "Too far out, Dan. Parking's a nightmare. Look, this place near the firm is perfect. Chic, convenient for Dad and the partners, excellent wine list." She tapped decisively on a photo of a sterile, glass and chrome establishment. No discussion, no compromise. Her convenience, her world, trumped mine. Again. Old Daniel would have sulked, maybe argued weakly, then inevitably conceded. New Daniel smiled brightly. "Looks great, Mia. Good call. Makes sense for everyone." My compliance seemed to reassure her. But later that day, I placed a call to Elise. "Hey, Elise," I started, injecting just the right amount of faux concern into my voice. "Quick question, and maybe I'm overthinking this. Mia seems incredibly stressed lately. Locked in on work, picking venues based purely on proximity to the office. Is she okay? I just worry she's taking on too much before the wedding." I knew Elise. I knew her protective instincts, her ingrained belief that Mia deserved better, meaning not me, and her penchant for meddling disguised as sisterly concern. Planting that seed was like tossing a match into dry tinder. I could almost hear the gears turning in her head. "Oh, Daniel," she'd sighed dramatically. "You're sweet to worry. I've noticed it too. She's pushing herself too hard. Maybe this wedding is adding too much pressure right now." Perfect. The seed was sown. Elise would now be watching Mia's workaholism not just with sisterly irritation, but with the added narrative I'd provided. Mia isn't coping. Maybe she's not ready. My next move was quieter, more strategic. Through careful networking leveraging contacts I knew would be useful from my past life, I'd cultivated a casual acquaintance with Robert Harrison, the CEO of Harrison Holdings, Mia's father's largest and most prestigious client. Arthur Kensington guarded that relationship jealously. I found common ground with Harrison, a shared interest in vintage cars, and positioned myself as a fellow enthusiast, occasionally sharing articles or auction news. Nothing overt, just building quiet rapport, completely separate from Mia or her family. Simultaneously, I began subtly influencing Mia's workload. "Hey, did you see that new antitrust case against PharmaCorp?" I'd ask casually, forwarding her a news link I knew would pique her interest. "Seems incredibly complex. Right up your alley." It was a case I knew, from the first timeline, would become a quagmire, consuming months of her life and generating endless emergencies. Another time, my friend mentioned needing specialized IP advice. "Your firm handles that, right? Maybe you should pitch for it." Knowing full well the client was notoriously difficult and demanding. I was feeding her ambition, steering her towards the very professional black holes that would inevitably pull her away from our life together. The predictable crisis moment arrived. The engagement party. Hosted naturally by Maya's parents at their sprawling suburban mansion. An hour before we were due to leave, Mia's phone rang. Her face tightened. "It's Moreau," she mouthed, stepping onto the balcony. Moreau Industries, a notoriously volatile client Arthur had personally assigned her, a client I'd subtly nudged her towards taking point on, knowing their penchant for weekend emergencies. She came back inside, pale but resolute. "I have to go. Emergency meeting. Something blew up." "Mia, it's our engagement party," I said, keeping my voice calm, reasonable. I know, Daniel, but this is huge. Dad expects me to handle it. I'll try to be back as soon as I can." She kissed me quickly, grabbed her briefcase, and was gone. I arrived at the party alone. The whispers started almost immediately. Then came Elise, oozing concern, taking my arm. "Daniel, darling, where's Mia?" she asked, loud enough for the surrounding cluster of guests to hear. I explained, keeping my tone neutral. Elise shook her head, her expression a perfect blend of sympathy and disapproval. "Oh, that girl, working herself into the ground? One has to wonder—" She let her voice trail off, but her implication hung in the air, amplified by the seeds I'd planted earlier. Is she really ready for marriage if she can't even make her own engagement party? The narrative I'd handed her was playing out perfectly. My own public embarrassment, orchestrated by her, but serving my ultimate purpose. Mia arrived 3 hours later, flustered, apologetic, missing all the toasts and speeches. She spent the rest of the night making grand, public gestures of affection towards me, trying to compensate. Flowers arrived at my office the next day, expensive gifts, lavish promises for the future. "I'll make it up to you, Dan, I swear. Once this Moreau thing settles down." I accepted the apologies, the gifts. I let her believe she was winning me back. Inside, I opened my journal. Engagement party, missed, reason, Moreau crisis, facilitated indirectly. Promise #2, make it up post-Moreau. The wedding planning kicked into high gear. Mia, perhaps sensing she needed to demonstrate commitment, threw herself into choosing floral arrangements and cake flavors, albeit mostly via email between meetings. She talked constantly about our future, our life together, after the wedding. But I noticed her calendar invites for vendor meetings were invariably clustered around lunchtime or late evenings, carefully scheduled around her non-negotiable case deadlines. She was prioritizing the wedding, yes, but only within the rigid confines of her career. The pattern held. She just didn't see it. I did. The final month before the wedding was a blur of fittings, RSVPs, and Mia's escalating stress levels. The Moreau case was proving even more demanding than anticipated, as I knew it would, and her father was applying constant pressure. She looked perpetually exhausted, surviving on caffeine and adrenaline. The final straw landed exactly 1 week before the wedding date. We were having a rare, quiet dinner at home, takeout boxes littering the coffee table. Mia was scrolling through emails on her phone, naturally. "Okay, minor change of plans," she announced, not looking up. "The Moreau mediation got moved. It's now the week after the wedding, which means we have to postpone the honeymoon. Just by a couple of weeks. Maybe a month. We can still go, just later." She finally looked up, offering a tight, hopeful smile. "You get it, right? It's unavoidable. Career-making." There it was. The same pattern, the same expectation. Postpone our life for her career. In the first timeline, this hadn't happened. I'd already been left at the altar by then, but the principle was identical. My needs, our shared plans, were always the first casualty when her ambition called. I met her gaze. No anger flickered in my expression, just Stillness. Okay, Mia, if it's unavoidable. Relief washed over her face. Oh, thank God. I knew you'd understand. You're the best, Dan. She leaned over and kissed me, oblivious to the chill beneath my calm exterior. For the next 6 days, I played the part of the understanding fiancé perfectly. I discussed contingency plans for the honeymoon rescheduling. I attended the final suit fitting. I fielded calls from relatives. I appeared completely on board. Quietly, I was finalizing my exit. Transferring funds, signing documents, confirming arrangements, Emma, my business partner. And increasingly, something more handled the logistics with quiet efficiency. The day before the wedding, rehearsal dinner scheduled for that evening at the sterile, convenient restaurant Mia had chosen. Family flying in. Everything was set. Mid-afternoon, I asked Mia to sit down. There's something we need to discuss, I said, my voice level. She looked up from her laptop, annoyed at the interruption. Can it wait, Dan? I'm drowning here. No, it can't. I slid a bound document across the coffee table. It wasn't thick, but it was dense. What's this? She asked, frowning. Open it? She did. The first page was dated 5 years ago. It detailed a canceled date, a broken promise. The next page, another and another, meticulously documented. Every rescheduled plan, every missed anniversary, every late-night crisis, every promise to make it up later. Dates, times, reasons given, promises made. 5 years of being secondary. Interspersed were printouts of emails, screenshots of texts. Her own words, her own patterns, laid bare. Her face paled as she flipped through the pages. Daniel, what is this? Some kind of ledger? It's a record, I said quietly. A record of priorities. Then I dropped the first bomb. You know Thornton and Gage, the firm that keeps stealing your clients, causing you headaches? She looked up, confused. Yes, Richard Sterling's firm. What about them? Their recent expansion, their aggressive client acquisition, it's been funded by an anonymous angel investor for the past 4 years, an investor who seemed to have an uncanny knack for knowing exactly where Kensington and Associates was vulnerable. I paused, letting it sink in. That investor is me? Mia stared, uncomprehending. You? But how? Your startup? My startup, I interrupted gently. The one you and your father politely dismissed. We developed a niche AI-driven data analysis platform. Sold it 18 months ago to a tech giant for, well, let's just say funding Sterling's little sorties was pocket change. I leaned forward slightly. I haven't needed your world, Mia. Not for a long time. I spent the last 5 years building my own, completely independent of your father's connections or your social circle's approval. Her mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. And the Moreau crisis? I continued, my voice still calm. That emergency last week that cost us our honeymoon? The initial leak that destabilized their position and forced this mediation. Anonymous source, wasn't it? A source with intimate knowledge of their internal weaknesses. I didn't need to confirm it. She saw it in my eyes. How could you know all this? She whispered, shaking her head. The Innovate pitch weaknesses. The timing of the Moreau leak. It's impossible. Is it? I met her gaze directly. Or is it possible that I've seen this all play out before, Mia? That I know exactly how your ambition blinds you, how Elise undermines, how James betrays, how your father manipulates? Is it possible I woke up 5 years ago, the day after you left me waiting at the altar, in our first timeline with a chance to do things differently? The color drained completely from her face. She looked utterly stunned, grappling with the impossible reality I was presenting. Right on cue, my phone buzzed. A text message. Downstairs. "There's someone I want you to meet," I said, standing up. A moment later, Emma walked in, calm, composed, radiating quiet confidence. She wasn't dressed in designer labels, but she carried herself with an assurance Mia's circle could only buy, not possess. She nodded politely at Mia, then stood beside me. "Mia, this is Emma Hayes, my business partner. I didn't add, and the woman I'm building a future with." It wasn't necessary. The contrast was stark. Emma, who celebrated my successes, who respected my time, whose idea of partnership was mutual support, not constant sacrifice. Mia stared from me to Emma and back again, the pieces clicking into place with devastating speed. The calculated revenge, the impossible knowledge, the sheer scale of my independence from her world. I picked up my phone. I made one call, to the wedding planner. "Yes, this is Daniel Thorne. I need to inform you that tomorrow's wedding is canceled. Yes, permanently. Reason? Let's just call it incompatible priorities. No, there's nothing else to discuss." I hung up. I looked at Mia, whose expression was a mixture of shock, disbelief, and dawning horror. "I won't be at the rehearsal dinner tonight, Mia," I said softly. "And I won't be at the vineyard tomorrow. I chose a different path. 5 years ago, I chose it. It just took me this long to walk it." Without another word, Emma and I turned and walked out, leaving Mia alone with the wreckage of her perfectly scheduled life and the documented proof of why it fell apart. The aftermath was exactly the kind of controlled chaos I'd anticipated. Phones blew up. Mine, Emma's, probably everyone Mia had ever met. Voicemails filled with confusion, anger, demands for explanation. The carefully curated world of Kensington and Associates and their social circle imploded with the news of the cancelled wedding, the day before the ceremony. Whispers turned into frantic gossip. Mia's reputation, both personal and professional, took an immediate hit. Canceling a high-profile wedding at the last minute? Unthinkable. Combined with the recent, mysterious setbacks at her firm, losing key clients like Innovate, the ongoing Moreau debacle, now indefinitely stalled without the anonymous leaks to guide it, speculation ran rampant. Was she unstable? Had she been the one to call it off? The narrative control she usually maintained was shattered. Elise was the first to try and intervene directly. She cornered me outside my new office building a few days later, her usual polished facade cracked with genuine fury. "Daniel, what the hell have you done?" she hissed, forgetting the faux sweetness. "Do you have any idea the humiliation you've caused? Mia is devastated. You owe her an explanation." "I believe Mia understands the core reasons," I replied evenly. "Incompatible priorities. It's quite simple." "Simple? You destroyed her. After everything she did for you, letting you into our lives." "Letting me in?" I cut her off, my voice dangerously quiet. "Or tolerating me until I became inconvenient? Your concern for Mia is touching, Elise, especially considering how you actively undermined our relationship from the start." I saw the flicker of shock in her eyes. How could I know? I didn't elaborate. I just walked away, leaving her sputtering on the sidewalk. Next came Arthur Kensington. He requested a meeting, formal, at his club. He was smoother than Elise, adopting a disappointed but reasonable father-figure approach. "Daniel, son," he began, swirling brandy in a ridiculously large snifter. "This whole situation, it's regrettable. A breakdown in communication, perhaps. Mia is beside herself. Whatever issues you two had, surely they can be worked through. Think about the stability, the future." He paused, leaning forward conspiratorially. "Look, the partnership decision, maybe it was hasty. We can revisit that. We value you, Daniel, as part of the family." The offer hung in the air. The validation, the acceptance I had once craved. Partnership in the firm. Full entry into their world. The price? Go back. Play the game. Pretend none of it happened. Arthur, I said calmly, meeting his gaze. My future doesn't lie with your firm or your family. My stability is self-made now. I appreciate the offer, but my decision is final. His mask of civility slipped, revealing the cold calculation beneath. He saw I was no longer controllable, no longer an asset to be managed. The meeting ended curtly. Even some of the old friend circle reached out, casual texts, awkward emails. Heard you're doing great things with your new company. We should grab a drink sometime. Suddenly, the outsider was interesting, now that he had tangible success independent of Mia. I ignored them all. James was harder. He tried the old friend routine, calling with feigned concern. Dude, what happened? Mia's a wreck, are you okay? This time, I didn't hold back. Cut the crap, James, I said flatly. I know you spent years playing both sides, telling Mia I was needy while pretending to be my sympathetic ear. I know you were angling for an intro at Kensington. You used our friendship as leverage. I then forwarded him a single email. A time-stamped exchange from the first timeline, retrieved from old cloud backups I never thought I'd need, where he explicitly bad-mouthed me to one of Mia's cousins, hoping to curry favor. The digital ghost of his betrayal. He never called back. Finally, Mia herself reached out. Not with anger, but with a raw vulnerability I hadn't seen before. Not even in the first timeline. We met for coffee, at her request, in a neutral downtown cafe. She looked tired, smaller somehow. Daniel, she started, her voice thick with emotion. I've read that journal, every page, and I've thought about what you said, about before. She shook her head, tears welling. You were right. About everything. I was so focused on the next step, the next win. I treated our relationship like a case file to be managed around deadlines. I took you for granted, completely. She reached across the table, her hand trembling. I see it now. I truly do. Please, Daniel, is there any chance? Can we start again? I'll change. I swear I'll change. I'll prioritize us. It felt real. Her regret, her insight. Maybe the shock had finally broken the pattern. For a moment, the old Daniel flickered, the one who loved her, the one who wanted to believe. But I looked at her, and I saw not just the woman I once loved, but the years of ingrained habits, the pressure from her father, the ambition that was woven into her DNA. Change was possible, maybe, but I wasn't willing to bet my second chance at happiness on it. I gently withdrew my hand. Mia, I said, my voice soft but firm. I believe you mean that. Right now, in this moment, I do, but I can't go back. I took a breath. It's not about revenge anymore. It truly isn't. It's about choosing a different life. I've found someone, Emma, who sees partnership the way I do. Mutual, balanced. We're building something different. I paused. I'm sorry for the pain this has caused, but my answer is no. Her face crumpled, but she nodded slowly, accepting the finality. The consequences continued to ripple outwards. My new tech company, thriving under Emma's sharp management and my strategic direction, aided, admittedly, by future insights into market trends, began competing directly for clients that Kensington and Associates relied on. We weren't predatory, just better, more innovative. We offered solutions, not just billable hours. We won contracts, fair and square, that further squeezed Mia's firm. Professionally, I offered courtesy. When our paths crossed at industry events, I was polite, distant. But the personal boundary was absolute. The revenge was complete, not in causing misery, but in achieving my own success and peace, entirely on my own terms. I had grown beyond needing her downfall to feel validated. My refusal wasn't an act of vengeance, it was an act of self-preservation. 3 years. That's how long it's been since I walked away from Mia, from the vineyard, from the life that was never truly mine. The late afternoon light paints the ocean in shades of orange and gold. Emma leans against me on the balcony of our home, a comfortable silence settling between us as we watch the waves roll in. Our home. Not a status symbol, not a convenient location, but a place we chose together, overlooking the Pacific, far from the suffocating pressures of Mia's world. My company is doing more than just well. We're leaders in our niche, known not just for innovation, but for our culture. Work-life balance isn't a buzzword, it's policy. We learned from the mistakes I lived through. We don't celebrate burnout. We encourage boundaries. Success doesn't have to cost you your life. This morning, like most mornings, started quietly. Coffee on this same balcony. A shared smile. Talking about plans for the day. A mix of work commitments and personal time, easily balanced, mutually respected. No frantic calls, no last-minute cancellations, no assumption that one person's priorities automatically override the others. It's simple, peaceful. The kind of partnership I didn't even know could exist back when I was trying so hard to fit into Mia's pre-packaged life. We ran into Mia, briefly, a few months ago, an industry conference in Seattle. She was there with her father, looking polished, professional, but with a shadow of something weary in her eyes. There was an awkward nod, a fleeting moment of eye contact. I saw the regret etched on her face, clear as day. It wasn't satisfying. It just was. A confirmation of different paths taken. I felt no bitterness, no lingering anger. Just a quiet acknowledgement of a chapter closed. Emma squeezed my hand, sensing the moment, offering silent support. Looking back, the intricate plotting, the silent revenges. They feel distant now. Necessary steps on the path, perhaps, to break free from the gravitational pull of that old life. But the goal wasn't the revenge itself. It was the freedom on the other side. The freedom to build something authentic, something real. The satisfaction comes not from Mia's struggles, but from my own contentment. Next month, Emma and I are getting married. On a beach, not a vineyard. Small ceremony, close friends and family who genuinely support us. We planned it together, every detail a shared decision. It feels effortless, joyful. Everything the first wedding wasn't. The sun dips lower, painting the sky fiery red. My phone lies face down on the small table beside me, silenced. No urgent alerts, no demanding calls hijacking the moment. Just the sound of the waves, the cool evening breeze, and Emma's steady presence beside me. I take a deep breath, filling my lungs with the clean salt air. Present, grounded, free. The ghosts of the past are finally laid to rest, not by vengeance, but by choosing, day after day, to live fully in the life I built for myself. My second chance wasn't just about escaping Mia. It was about finding me and finding peace.